Like even my children, being able to hear my brother's voice for the first time.
Luke Bryan is a hugely successful country music singer and songwriter. But despite all his success, Luke's life hasn't always been easy. In fact, he had to deal with more tragedy than people realize. Luke had two siblings, but sadly, both of them passed away. Luke was the youngest of three siblings. He had an older brother, Chris, and an older sister, Kelly. But tragically, both of them passed away way too soon. And this had a huge impact on Luke, his life, and his career. Luke opened up about his siblings' unexpected passings in an interview with Billboard in 2018. And he said that there was a reason why he always seemed so happy and energetic. After his siblings passed away, Luke realized that he couldn't take a second for granted. The loss of his siblings made him appreciate how precious and fragile life is. And that's why he's such a happy person. He says that he carries this mentality into his performances as well as into how he deals with people on a daily basis. He wants people to think that he doesn't ever have a bad day. But while that's how he chooses to present himself, Luke has definitely had some bad days. His brother Chris passed away in 1996. He got into a car accident, and unfortunately, he didn't survive it. This was difficult for Luke for many different reasons. Chris wasn't just his brother, he was his best friend. And he was really supportive of Luke going to Nashville. Apparently, he was actually one of Luke's biggest supporters. And what's really tragic about this is that Luke actually planned on going to Nashville right around the time his brother passed away. Chris lost his life only about 5 days before Luke was supposed to move, but this devastating loss put a stop to his plans. Luke was only about 20 when Chris passed away. Chris was his older brother, but he was still only 26 years old when he lost his life. This was difficult for the whole family, but especially for Luke's mother, LeClaire. Losing a child is a painful experience, and LeClaire was left devastated, which is why Luke decided not to move to Nashville. He wanted to be there for his mom. LeClaire later admitted that she couldn't bear the thought of Luke being away, so he stayed with his family. He finished college, and he later started working with his dad. Luke's dad, Tommy, had a fertilizer company, and Luke joined the company, but he wasn't happy. He was still playing music with a band on the weekends, but sadly, that wasn't exactly fulfilling. He still had dreams of making it big, but at the same time, he was ready to settle down in Leesburg, Georgia. He said that this was just the path of least resistance for him, so he was ready to give up on his Nashville dreams. But then, his dad stepped in. Tommy told his son that he would fire him if he didn't move to Nashville. So Luke had no choice but to follow his dreams. He finally made the move to Nashville in September 2001. And this was the start of what would eventually become a mega successful career. He had to do it all without Chris, who was once his biggest supporter, but he still had his other family members by his side. His older sister Kelly was also really supportive of his career. In 2007, Luke was invited to perform at the Grand Ole Opry. He must have been very excited, and Kelly was excited for him too. Reportedly, she got 129 people to attend Luke's concert. All those people came to support him. This was a huge moment for Luke. But sadly, just a couple days later, something tragic happened. Kelly passed away shortly after Luke's Opry performance. She was at home with her 3-year-old son, and then something happened. She left this world forever. Kelly was a middle school teacher. She was married to a man named Ben Cheshire. Together, they had 3 kids. So Kelly's passing left a lot of people heartbroken. The worst part was that no one knew what happened to her. To this day, the family still has no idea why Kelly passed away. Luke talked to people about the tragedy in 2013, and he said that they never determined what happened. Despite the autopsies and the coroner trying to figure it out, they just couldn't. Kelly's family never got any answers, but they still had to deal with what happened. This was the second out of 3 siblings to pass away too young. Luke was now the only sibling left, and he said that this really impacted him. Luke admitted that he thinks about his siblings every day. He often can't help but wonder what his life would be like if his brother and sister were still here. But he understands that this just wasn't the plan. He's had to find peace with the losses. So has his mom, LeClaire. According to Luke, losing Chris and Kelly really changed his mom's belief system. Even now, she still has bad days. Luke will sometimes get calls from her when she's missing his siblings. She also often wants him to be around them because he's all she has left. Luke understands that this has all been very painful for his mom. It has also been very painful for him, but it's more than that. In an interview with Willie Geist on Sunday Today, Luke admitted that he sometimes feels anxious about talking about losing his siblings. He said that he's sometimes worried about people at home wondering why this much tragedy happened in his life. But despite all this, he still chooses to talk about his siblings and everything that he's been through. The loss of his siblings affected his life in many ways, but there was one more loss that changed his life forever. In November 2014, Kelly's husband, Ben, passed away as well. This meant that Ben and Kelly's 3 children lost both their parents, and Luke had to make a big decision. He and his wife, Caroline Boyer, decided to raise Kelly and Ben's kids. Luke and Caroline already had 2 kids of their own, sons Bo and Tate, but now they also take care of their nephew Tilden and their nieces Chris and Jordan. Luke even got to walk Jordan down the aisle on her wedding day. He told ABC News that it was one of the coolest and most emotional things he's ever done. He described the ceremony as beautiful and magical. He also said that he really loved Jordan's new husband, Clint. Luke has dealt with many tragic losses in his life, but he still manages to be happy and spread positivity. He understands how precious life is, and it's clear that he wants to live his life to the fullest. Despite losing two of his closest family members, Luke has managed to make a life for himself, and he's someone who will seemingly always be there for his family and loved ones.